intergenerational audience. We require expressive expression and aesthetic concepts to be going hand in hand. So yeah, this is something which we like to bring together. And how do we do is something interesting is that we every year try to get involved with our aspiring practitioners. We have two of our aspiring practitioners here. We have Abhisha, who's from Information Arts, Information Design, and then we have Maya from Digital Media Arts. And like this, every year, I think the final year students and the foundation students, both the first year and the last year, I really like taking them on the field and getting involved with certain craft practices. There are no disciplinary boundaries that they are going to be textile or they're going to be artist or they're going to be from contemporary art practices or they're going to be from information art practices. And that is how this multi-dimensional framework really helps us to create something which is really important for the intergenerational audience. So yeah, I think there we bring the full cycle of how we can create these practitioners and learners who understand the tangible and the untangible aspects of creating and making. After all, making is something, you know, we as human beings, making is central to us. So we need to understand what our next generation needs to do to be involved with the making. And then going further, I think we'll open the floor with Darshan from Weaver Studio and Victoria. And we have a couple of very interesting questions for all of you. And I mean, we are open to all the other questions which you have.
If
So,
anybody
yeah,
wants to ask any questions regarding the last panel discussion, we could start with that and then take it forward.
Thank
Does
you.
anybody have, thank you very much. If anybody has any questions for the reason I'm pushing is because of the time constraint. Can we have the mic going around, please? This is a question for the last panel.
Yeah, I'm very interested in Ayurvastra because I think that this is something, as you mentioned, about multi-sensory. And talking about natural dyes, we have had at the last ISAN in Korea very interesting scientific research on the use of persimmon dyeing and the antibacterial aspects. And so a lot of the Koreans and the Japanese are very keen that natural dye actually has, beyond just its beauty, beyond its comfort, but also has antibacterial properties. So I'm very interested in all these multi-sensory aspects of textiles and dyes.
I will answer it, sir. Thank you for your question first. See, now we have a lot of clarification of natural dyes. For example, people, they want just color. See, if you know, there is, every dyeing has some purpose. For example, synthetic dyeing, it is giving vibrant color, dark, shining, and that is why synthetic dye came. Then after 200 years, there is a bad impact, 87% water is gone. Then they want some certification. After 1996 research, German research, they found cloth has been creating diseases, and mainly skin diseases, even skin cancer. So they banned so much of dye stuff. That is why there was even a recession, a problem in all India, Southeast Asia. Then they came a certification. You heard about GARD certification, so much of other certification agency. They come to India, they have their office, they test the dye stuff, and they say this is organic, and it is not going to give any kind of toxicity more than like that. But still it is synthetic. Then other people who are, actually the natural dyeing become a lot extinct in India, most probably everywhere over one small part of people were doing. So what they are doing is that knowingly, unknowingly, they buy extract and they go for one particular color, and they do with some process which they know. They use some mordant, even some people they are using natural mordant. So I'm not saying good or bad. Even though this natural dyeing, 90-95%, I'm saying there were some kind of mordant they were adding. So there is no debate on that. So, but what Ayurvastra, why we made Ayurvastra is that we studied our traditional dyeing method before 500 years, 300 years, and we found they were dyeing using herbs, which is more Ayurvedic herbs, which is having antimicrobial property in nature only. And we have all mordant also in nature. There are so much of mordant which is available in nature. There is, because people doesn't know synthetic that time. Synthetic mordant was not available. So there is one philosophy I told in the meeting, which is called as cloth wrapping treatment, which they have been doing with the wounded soldiers. The wounded soldiers know that day they were fighting and they need antimicrobial to survive. So that time they were using cloth as a media for antimicrobial. That is the basis of our Ayurveda. So here we do kashayam, we dip the fabric and yarn and we just put it and we weave it and give it to the weaver. So this is our concept. Wellness is there in our concept. We are not aiming only for the color. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that. Actually, coming back to this subject, we've been talking about it for the past 2 days, and what my real concern was that yes, we're talking about practitioners, we're talking about dyes, we're talking about innovation, we're talking about markets, all of it. But we know that our past practices were so important, and that for a better future. Why are we as a nation so poor at documenting our processes and procedures? If there's anybody who could come up with some kind of a solution where we could have a resource bank, where we document all of our past techniques and our past recipes and our past practices, that would become a kind of foundation for bringing all these questions that we have and the question marks that we have to a certain kind of a path to go forward.
So I think that's a very good point, Darshan, because that's something that's been concerning us also. So as part of this resource center that we are talking about, we would like to do a documentation of the traditional practices across the country. And it's not something very short term, but slowly, state by state, we can start and we all can contribute to it. No, I think that's absolutely necessary.
Yes.
I don't know how many of you are aware, but in fact, Weaver Studio Darshandi has her own museum of textiles in Kolkata, and she herself is a firm believer in documentation, and thanks to her, we have got books like Baluchori, for example, is a textile craft practice in Bengal, and her extensive research has opened the eyes of people like us to Baluchori. And now I have 2 books on Baluchari. Both have been kind of patronized by her. So documentation is a must. It is a must for everyone, for every craft.
I am very surprised of this discussion, because I thought there's a big book by Mukho Upadhyay, and then Jagada went on working on that, and so you have an invaluable document with so many plants and recipes.
No, and that's true, but individual level, wherever the workshops are, trainings are conducted, they need to be documented. As far as I know, whatever I've been working for 30 years, 35 years, all my workshops are documented with the recipe and given to the NGOs. And if they are willing to kind of part with it and share it with you people, that will be wonderful. We don't have to be, these recipes, what I said, is based on the water and climatic condition. So it may not be suitable to kind of every region. You can't copy the recipe and start doing it. You may get the variation. So, but generally you will get the idea of the methodology used. And over the period, if you can go back to 87, 89, from that time onwards, you can see the evolution and the new discoveries and how my process have changed, what at the present, what I'm doing with the thing, how to make the manual labor little less, and what are the new technology, appropriate technology, what I'm using. Everything has been documented. So you can ask the NGOs, start with Sutra everywhere. NARDs we did, Tatsakarandra, Malka. I just don't remember where all I went. Even it's the smallest village. So I think that is one way out, but anybody who wants, to know more about documentation, we have done an extensive documentation of when I was in the Takarandra during 1992-93. We have done a documentation of the existing practitioners through whom we were able to get many different ideas. I have gone to the Madras, Presidency, this thing in Karimera Library. We have collected, including the Calcutta Library, where I have seen beautiful old documentation written by the colonial thing. So those things are there.
The reason I wanted to discuss this was to bring it to everybody's attention that this needs to go onto the public domain. So I think it's extremely important. I am working on it. I'm working on the last 500 years of history and documentation of textiles of undivided Bengal. And now that I'm at a natural dye conference, this idea came up of documenting all of this and bring it into the public domain and keeping it in an open domain where people can keep adding. People can keep adding. So I think post Sangamam, maybe we can have Sangamam start this initiative and we can all join in. Just a moment.
Just wanted to, since we are on the topic of natural dyes, just wanted to bring to everybody's attention that in Kolkata, at the Botanical Survey of India, there is a documentation that has been done in 1870s by a Thomas Waddell, who documented over 3,500 natural dye samples. And there's a lady at Kew Gardens right now who's doing research. And what we have found out, and she's doing it in collaboration with Sutra, she's doing it on indigo actually, but obviously it brings all the other colors into play. And what we found out that when Thomas Waddell documented these, they came from all over India. People from every state gave their own. We don't know enough about it yet, but we know this, that it came from all over India, from all the states of India, and that was compiled and sent to England. So, I mean, that is something one is working on. My friend Bibi is working on that, but also to let you know that that resource is there, and if anybody comes to Kolkata, wants to have a look at these books, please contact us.
Yeah, can I just add to that? I'm just going to grab this opportunity. Thank you. Amrita-di actually gave an opportunity to work on that collection. We curated an exhibition 10 years back, Thomas Waddell, Colors of Nature. And the thing was, that was a beginning. We didn't know, my idea was the Textile Manufacturers of India that was published in the year 1867, that also was exhibited, has the introductory volume. And here, what they found was the introductory volume was missing. So when the presentation was happening, the thing was, closely working on that. We felt something is missing, something is missing. And in the year 2014, I was able to find the dyes and tans of India, the recipes that everything he has written, but he finally concludes that I'm keeping it as a secret because he goes by sin theta, cos theta, b theta, that theta, So he says, I'm a business person, I have to be very secretive. He only discloses the raw material and he just held back the formulas.
Formulas were not given.
Yeah, and thank you. And I wanted to add something. I'm sorry, I'm just taking too much of time, but on handloom note, I want to bring this. I had I'm a researcher basically, and I was researching the textiles that were traded from Coromandel Coast to Southeast Asia. And while we were examining, there were two things, so patolas from the west and the painted textiles from the east. And when we were going through the collection, the patolas were there, and we have the loose warp with the thing that we leave this and we weave, right? So they said, the conservators were like saying there's some kind of a damage. So I told, no, that's not damage, we call it loose warp. I simply said that. Actually, there is nothing called loose warp, but we all understand. People who are there in the handloom sector, we understand. But if you look out for a documentation, no, it's not there. And they corrected in the register. Coming back, I was to India then, where is it? Where is the loose warp? It's not there. I thought maybe how much I know about handlooms. What is the handloom mark? How do we identify? How do I define? I felt I didn't know anything. Journey started. literature survey. The very book every institution in our country that researches is the Watson textile design book that was published in the year 1921, and a Western who had authored it. By then, that book is based on a mechanized world. We are still in the handloom world. Why are we referring to that? It was a lot of confusion. And it took, still I haven't published the book. I'm struggling. But now, when I went, there is no common language. First I was little, why there's no common language? It has to be there. Then I thought, this is India. We cannot, we will not, we should not. This lungi book, what we worked, this is one weaver, one language we followed. And the language, it is amazing. And I feel language is very important. Whoever is doing the documentation, look, today batik went from India. I mean, I would say, Jagadamma has rightly documented in her book Amman Sele, Meligalit, Neerelit, everything she has documented, the Turige, the pen that writes, all the local terminology. Now we are using the word kalam, we are using batik. No, it all went from here. And if we had documented in our local terminology, I think we all will be able to relate. I think this is a moment, and this is a forum, and this is a start. And thank you. I grabbed too much of time, and thanks for bearing with me.
Yeah, there is one more thing when you talk about the language. When I was doing the documentation of the existing practitioners, we went an extensive study in the Madras Presidency books. So we were in Kanimera Library and other libraries. All of them was written in the English language. I knew that, the English people who had documented the whole process of red dyeing of Madurai and other colors, they were not understanding Tamil. A Tamil person is supposed to translate them into English, and they were supposed to document and send it back to England. But the person who was translating he is not a dyer or he is not a weaver. So whatever the dyer said, that language was translated to little English, whatever he knows. He is when it translated. But many a time I ask my question, this is not correct. So we take it for granted that whatever is documented years back, everything, as far as I'm only talking about recipes are concerned. I know that some of the recipes can't be done. I know they are wrong. But we are not here to dispute that. Take something from that and try to modulate the way we want and do that.
Yes, that is what Avni is proposing to do,
Yes.
what Weaver Studio is proposing to do. This forum is one place where I wanted to bring to attention that if all of us could, on the Sangamam website or wherever, have this new kind of discussion, and if you could start pasting all our documentation, which maybe we've had authenticated, then it could become like a more cohesive kind of a repository of recipes of natural dyes, of way forward for everybody to look into, and from time to time it could be upgraded, as you can see that Amma and and many others are, including Edric, are innovating all the time, are constantly innovating with less water, with less carbon footprint, with making the dyes more and more commercially friendly. And that's my main reason I brought this question up, is that people like Beena, who's here, and those who are practitioners, if you can come together and put our 30 to 50 years of experience into a common kind of platform, where it could be an open platform where people keep adding. That is what would make it extremely, kind of positive way
That's
to
a
move
good
forward.
one. The other thing I would like to, my last point will be this, because there was a vernacular translation of all the names of, today the younger generation, they don't know in their own language what are the looms of the parts called. So we are trying to document all the vernacular in each state, what the looms are called in their own language, so that the youngsters can know about it. So we are trying to catch hold of the seniors who are experienced one, and what they were calling, and document the whole thing for the Basha Academy in Baroda. So I hope something like that, if every state somebody can take up and do it in their own language. We should also add to the complete handloom this thing as a part of it, apart from documentation. Thank you.
Thank you. I totally agree that whatever we have been talking about, past 2 days should go beyond this room. And I'm honestly surprised that we don't have even a Sangamam IG page, right? And I want to refer to what one of the last session speakers, Baswati, are you here? Baswati, it was really enlightening for me to hear that during COVID, you found out from YouTube about dyeing using algae. So one of the other things is that we have to think about really posting freely to promote our handlooms, our dyeing methods on YouTube. I'm very glad to see all my young friends who are young designers who are really here still with us at the end of this session. So maybe it is you who are so savvy with your handphones, with a click, you can already post something about Sangamam, what we have been discussing here, and then challenging others to come and be aware. Because there's so much that is being discussed in our sessions, so many issues. Just post your comments and say that, yeah, you know, I was just checking on IG when I just say Sangamam. The only postings is from Avani, from Sutra, and from me. But nobody else has taken the initiative to even just tag and say, Sangamam, this is happening and all that. So we really need, for example, all those beautiful videos which we saw by the Tamil Nadu government. I need to see those clips on YouTube. I need to tell my friends, okay, I will just share the link and say this was happening in this part of Tamil Nadu. This kind of textile is being woven there, and this is what's happening. And I can link to Avani and see a beautiful Himalayan hamlet up there and say what you're doing in Weaver Studio. This is what we need to do. We need to have that new kind of social media impact and outreach. Thank you.
Thank you.
I just want to make, sorry, would you like to speak or shall I? I just want to make a few points in response to 2 or 3 of the speakers, and I'll do it quickly. So when we talked about empowerment, I think a good definition of empowerment would be to enhance the ability of the people who are practicing that art, to elevate their work in some way, you know, give them better wages, access new markets, help them to sustain those new markets, you know, and things along that line. Not necessarily just hand-holding, but giving them the full power and strength to carry on their own. That is one point I wanted to make about the empowerment. I think also we don't acknowledge the role of the government of India, you know, who have set up the, you know, the textile units, the weavers centers, where they are constantly giving design inputs. I know how some of them work. I frequent a few, and I see that they do. I mean, maybe not to the extent that private designers do, but they are the macro people who, you know, and they can do a lot more, but they do. Right. The other thing is that I think the gentleman who was in the panel, Mr. Kumaran, he made a point that the future is natural dyes. I think as a group of people here who want to accomplish something, we also have to be realists. We shouldn't, you know, get carried away with romantic notions. After all, we are in slower production. We use less mechanization. We use more sustainable methods. Our cost of production is higher than mechanized cost of production, chemical dyeing. And, you know, we have to acknowledge that we're small and niche, and we are competing with the very large people out there. So I think this is something that we should not push, again, all this back to the very elite, which is what Mr. Prasad Bidappa said, that we have to position it, handloom goods in such a way that it will be regarded as highly elite. Maybe that's okay for Japan. It's certainly not okay for India.
No, but what is going to happen in future is that our science, our technology, our R&D is going to make it in a way that I hope that in very, very soon, knowing that what is happening in the world and how dangerous it is that we are getting to the point of not only climate change, but all the polluting textile industry, that we will come up with solutions where the dyes will be available, you know, that are going to be toxic free. They may not be all natural, but they'll be toxic free, and there will be effluent treatment plants, and that the entire ecosystem will be such that the costings, the time, the design, the inputs, and all of it come together in a manner where it is finally sustainable. Finally sustainable. So yes, we do these conferences, but these are little small drops in the ocean with which we have to start. And if we don't dream it, we won't get there. That's the point. Just a moment.
So I just want to add, when we were talking about documentation and when we were looking at, this question came up because we were discussing, is it really getting weak? And the first thing which came to my mind was Professor M.L. Golrazani. Many of us must be knowing of how he actually broke the boundary between science and design. And it was taken forward into application of different kind of natural dyes to wool, which he did with Alps and many other industries. So I think, and then we are lucky to have Jagadappa and how she has documented, and then Carden here. I think for the future generation, we require many more people to document and come together from each region, around the world. So that is something which is similar. I think Jenny is also doing a